All right, welcome back to Lost for Words with Lori. It is Monday, the 4th of April, and I hope everyone is doing well. As promised, I decided that today's topic du jour, so to speak, the soup of the day, to cover will be on gatekeeping, as I see it, I guess. It's kind of I don't know, not the absolute gatekeeping, and that's going to piss off the gatekeepers of the toxic cesspool world, because I'm not going to be as specific as the Oxford Dictionary definition of gatekeeping, but just the social media kind of gatekeeping subject as I see it, so to speak, and really kind of what's been going on, and how I don't know, I guess how I perceive it lately, and kind of how much it really pisses me off, because it's really become kind of a topic of discussion in social media, and especially, in toxic cesspool world, for me lately. And I'll start, kind of where I noticed it first, and then how it really just became kind of like the light bulb went off, like the holy fuck moment, that it was like, damn, this is everywhere. And, it's always been there, but boy, it really slapped me in the fucking face recently, where I went, Jesus Christ, everybody's fucking dealing with this. And it's much bigger than just what I was seeing happening in my, third world, but my first, world really, in toxic cesspool world. Just from the basic Oxford Dictionary dealio, as far as gatekeeping goes, they say the definition, and I looked it up, and I went, oh, okay, well, let's go to the etymology of the word, right? So, that's what the people do, is they say, well, what's gatekeeping? So it's a noun, and it's the activity of controlling and usually limiting general access to something. And what does that really mean? Well, we just don't let people, we only tell them what we want to tell them. So the way that things are as far as gatekeeping, it really just kind of was brought to my attention that people started doing that. Really, when I started using different social media platforms, and people started throwing that word around a lot more concentrated as far as gatekeeping, and they're like, well, that's gatekeeping, well, that's gatekeeping. And I was like, well, let me dig into that a little bit deeper and figure out what people are talking about, and why are they accusing people of doing that. But then when I started digging deeper and realizing what that meant, I was like, oh, that's what that is. And that was what had been going on in toxic cesspool world with us, in the so-called paranormal community for the last 6 months to a year, as far as what people trying to control the information and tell people what was allowed and not allowed for them to do in content or content creating. And then I was like, oh, so that's what they mean by that. And kind of telling people, well, this is how you're supposed to do it, but if you don't do it our way, then we're not going to help you be successful and teach you the ins and outs of the platforms, or, give you any constructive advice, because people are being so competitive and so cutthroat about the business end of it. And that I'm finding that in a lot of different communities. But as far as what was going on in the community that Toby was trying to build in his YouTube, of it being a real cutthroat deal, and people were real secretive about how you upload things on YouTube, and how you edit, and what's a good strategy for an intro, and how long do things need to be, and and if you got in tight with a group of people, they were really cool about sharing information with you, as long as you didn't do better than they were. And then drama would start, and infighting would start, and gatekeeping would start, as far as different areas within their community, when people started getting jealous or envious, or there was drama starting within other groups of people. Then the gatekeeping would start. And it was basically used as kind of a weapon and a tool for hidden agendas and other things, or for people to step on other people with. And then I started to realize that it wasn't just happening in that community, but it's happening in all different social media platforms. And that becomes very toxic. And then it becomes very detrimental to people, good people. There's always going to be bad people who gatekeep for personal hidden agendas because they're narcissistic or they're just douchebags or, they are super uber competitive and they just want to get to the top and they don't care who they hurt to get there. So there's going to be malicious, toxic people who do that on purpose. And then there's going to be people who just don't really know any better and get caught up in the drama of it all, and play the game because, they've fallen victim to some of those toxic people. And then there's, people who just get stomped on, chewed up, and spit out as collateral damage to that gatekeeping, who are like me, just want to come in and learn something new, or like, Toby for that matter, or some of our other friends who were green at this and went, I want to do this new thing and here's a new platform and I want to learn all I can. And they see all of this drama and garbage and go, I don't want to do this. Fuck that. Or got sucked into the drama and got chewed up and spit out. And then we're like, fuck this noise. It ain't worth it. I'm not, fuck that. And then they just quit. And that's real sad, that, that kind of bullshit happens and that kind of garbage would discourage people from trying something. And, like I said, we came into this real green and Toby was like, damn, I didn't realize that people were going to be so cutthroat and assholes about numbers, about subscriptions, and be so critical about, me taking a camera and filming what I see and asking them to draw their own conclusions about it. And then people to be so judgmental about what they thought was fake or real based on their so-called expertise or judgment on a field that's evolving, growing, and changing. And nobody was happy for anybody else. And nobody wanted to say, hey, this, that, or the other thing. It was all about clout and subscriptions and who was bigger, better, or, sucking whose ass on the totem pole. And none of that made sense to some of us because, we were new and we weren't playing that game and we didn't understand the whole hierarchy of, social media communities, I guess, from that, concept of specialized communities, right? So, we did from a music standpoint because that wasn't our first rodeo in music, but we thought, new platform, new thing, new science, new whatever, it wasn't going to be as bad, but we were wrong and lesson learned. And, I guess coming full circle when I started going on to like Instagram and TikTok and those, I was pretty already aware that kind of bullshit happened. And it didn't matter what community you immersed yourself in. The cooking communities got it, and religious, any religious affiliation or any group, right? I don't care what it is. If you want to make stuffed animals, or if you want to go to a cooking channel on YouTube, or any, like I said, the paranormal community, or a spiritual path, or a religion, if you want to, follow the Mormons, for example. Not that I'm a Mormon, but what I'm saying is it doesn't matter what you're into on what social media platform. If you join a group, you're going to find drama, you're going to find gatekeeping, and you're going to find bullshit, because humans are human. And the toxicity of other people trying to tell you you can or cannot do this. And to be fair, the pros of that being that I see that people will do that kind of gatekeeping thing, or tell people to protect a marginalized community, or people jumping on a bandwagon to make other things look bad. And I get that. You don't want fair weather people in your community. But at the same time, if you have new people who are looking to learn something, you also don't want to push them out and be like, well, you're just a poser jumping on a bandwagon either. You also want to encourage them to do their due diligence, to learn, to practice, And also realize that there are some people who are interested in those things who aren't necessarily wanting to be as hardcore or full-blown as you are, but they still want to study and learn. That doesn't mean that you have to be such a snob or an elitist that you can't include them in your circle, or at least befriend them or be kind to them. And, so in a lot of ways, I think the gatekeeping kind of spills over to that elitism thing that we talk about where, oh, well, everybody's being judgmental about who sits at the cool kids table. And to be fair, that's kind of mean, and it's kind of being a douchebag. I mean, why am I any better or any less than anyone else who, like I said, I do this dumb, small little piece of YouTube world with, I've barely broken 100 subscribers. But again, that's not my agenda. I don't want to have 5 million people listening to my innermost thoughts. You guys know my journey is personal, and it always has been. And I appreciate every single person who takes the time to listen to my ramblings. And if only one of you listens to me every week and gets something out of it, awesome. But again, it's for me. But why should somebody who has, say, 5 million listeners who does a podcast, whether it's political or religious or whatever else, not listen to what I might have to say on any given day and go, hey, I can give her a thumbs up and tell her that was a really good job, and move on with their day and not have it and have that make my day, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm any less than or greater than they are because they have 5 million viewers, right? It just means that I have a message and I have my own reasons for doing what I do. But if they like my stuff, cool. I'm not going to resonate with everybody. And they might not resonate with me. But you can appreciate somebody's willingness to be whatever it is that they want to be. And I have no right to tell another podcaster, dude, you shouldn't be political. Whoever it is, love them or hate them, whatever their content is. And there's a lot of people out there who probably shouldn't be given a microphone, and myself included. There are probably a lot of people who don't really care for what I talk about either. No harm, no foul. You don't have to like me. But again, who am I to be an elitist? Toby and I used to talk about that with our music, with the music industry. And you can be a total douchebag, and we're all guilty of that in our journey of growing up. Toby and I talked about that back in the 80s. I used to be very judgmental about, oh, you listen to this poser, 80s hair metal band, and give people shit because it wasn't, Iron Maiden or Motorhead. And you can make somebody feel like a total dick because they like Poison or Cinderella or Rat. I'm 51 years old now, and I love those bands that I used to feel obligated to be a gatekeeper or an elitist prick about back in the 80s because, you're uncertain about your own standing or stature within your group. And 30, 40 years later, you realize that was a dick move. You don't need to make other people, you don't need to punch down to make yourself feel better. Because you like something more than they do, and they like something different than you do. And this gatekeeping that you see in music or in, like I said, in spiritual path things, you see it on TikTok or even in marginalized communities when we talk about, the alphabet mafia groups and being an ally for the LGBTQIA plus communities. And even when we talk about the marginalized communities as far as the African American and racist stuff that's been going on in our country for how long, and even the civil rights movements, the American Indian movements, and all of that with Native American tribes and their land and the indigenous populations all over the world. When we talk about all of those issues and the gatekeeping that goes on and all of the infighting between people about who's right, who's wrong, and the elitism that goes on in that is frustrating because nobody wants to sit down and just listen or have an open mind about sharing information and allowing all of us to be individuals and letting us be accountable. Especially, and I'll just be personal. I'll just stick it straight from the heart with what happened with George Floyd and how everybody made that racial and political. Dude, that was some serious, heavy social everything for everybody in the whole world, and it unfolded and it brought to light some major issues for everybody. And every individual on this planet had to look in the mirror and look at themselves. And I don't care what color you were, what race you were, whether you were male or female, or how you identified on the spectrum, that caused, or where you were political or religious. That issue that happened in this world made people look in the mirror and have to really soul search deep and look at who they were as a person and how they fit into society. And we all had to think about how we could do better, right? All of us. And I don't care where you stood on the fucking spectrum for any of those issues, whether you're black or white, whether you were a racist or not, whether you all had to think about a lot of issues and how you treated people, regardless, and where you stood on issues, regardless of everything that was going on in the world at that time. And it really did draw a lot of lines in the sand about people being accountable for how they treated people. And there was a lot of elitism and gatekeeping that was going on in that too. And yeah, I got sucked into that at the beginning of that too. And I realized that the best way was to be accountable in my first world and stop trying to prove to everybody on a social media platform that I was a good human. I just needed to prove it to myself and to the people around me, because you can say whatever you want on a keyboard, but unless somebody's standing next to you in line at Walmart, nobody's going to know what kind of human you are. And at the end of the day, I can't prove to any of you guys by yammering on a microphone or even putting up Facebook posts. I can't prove to any of you guys that I'm doing better or that I'm a good human every day in real life unless you see it first world. So you're just either going to have to take my word for it and believe me, or my first world people that I'm doing these things with are the proofs in the pudding. So I can only just do what I'm doing and hope that if you hear what I'm doing and you guys try the things that I'm doing and practice boundaries and expectations and maintain friendships and do what you can do to protect yourself in deed, that you'll reap the same benefits and have the same positive outcomes of the things that I'm doing, and realize that it's not bullshit and I'm not doing it for clout, or I don't have any hidden agendas, and I'm not a big narcissist who just wants to hear my own voice on the radio, or become like the next 5 million subscriber podcast, because like I said, I don't give a fuck about those things. And if I did, I guess I'd probably be pushing myself out there a whole lot harder, right? But yeah, the gatekeeping thing baffles me. I get it. I get it if you're young, if you're 20 years old, or young and think that your shit don't stink. I mean, the elitism concept, or being one who can say, well, you can't do that because it hurts our platform, or we're the ones who tell you what you can and can't do, makes sense to me if you're trying to be a big leader, or if you're trying to boost yourself up higher for whatever reason. Either you need money, or you want to be, you need attention, or whatever. And I guess that makes sense to me. If you're young, I guess I'm at the point in my life where I just don't need those things. And that's when we talk about toxicity, and we talk about narcissists, or we talk about people who are damaged and need therapy, or people who are looking for, validation outside of themselves. And haven't found that true, self-esteem or that true confidence within themselves. And I get that, and it's sad. And like I said, it's happening in all communities. It's happening with all different people. I'm not singling out anyone in particular. I'm not trying to blow smoke in anybody's direction or cause any problems. I've just noticed that, like I said, especially now that I'm doing TikTok, and I started out, I went to TikTok to to find a distraction to post bird videos for Buddy, and then, after Toby died, to kind of maybe do some research and maybe find some new friends and learn about Norse paganism, because that was Toby's spiritual path. And when I got there, it was trying to figure out, where do you go to learn about runes and learn about their history and learn about their stuff. And it was no different than the paranormal world or the music industry. There are people in there who think that they're the definitive, or they know it all, or they tell you how you can and cannot practice whatever it is, whatever. And there's drama that goes on and infighting, and that's going to happen in any community where people are different and have different opinions, and somebody thinks that they're better than or less than, and there's always going to be that. And I wasn't disappointed. It happens in all communities. Like I said, it'll happen in the cooking community. Somebody's going to get butthurt because, so-and-so's cupcakes or recipes are more popular, and so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so's haircut, or somebody likes somebody else's boyfriend. I mean, you're going to find that in all communities. So I was ready for it. It's just, it takes a long time to figure out who you can and can't trust in those worlds. I'm not looking for, first world friends, and I'm sure as fuck not looking for, a boyfriend, or any of that. But it becomes a really fine line to walk about how much energy you want to exert on protecting yourself when you go onto a new social media platform. And, who do you friend and who do you block? And it all comes back down to the basic premise of everything that I believe hardcore in, and that's establishing your boundaries and maintaining friendships and creating a rock hard foundation of, I'm transparent, and I'm transparent across the board on my TikTok too. Don't fuck with me, don't DM me, I'm not looking for shit, and this is who I am, and if you don't like it, then feel free to walk out of my world. I'm not trying to present myself as anything more than who I am. And if, just like any other social media platform, if you take 5 minutes to do your research, you'll figure out pretty damn quick who I am. And I don't have time, to hold your hand and play pissy pants games. I'm not looking for drama. And, I'm not going to get involved in other people's drama either. If you guys have beef with each other, then you take it up amongst yourselves. I'm not interested in fighting other people's battles. I'm not going to go report other people's videos for whatever violations, because I don't do that in my first world either. So I'm not interested in drama. I'm here for distraction and to learn and for positivity. And so, gatekeeping to me seems like victimizing and Debbie Downership and a bunch of butthurt elite people who are just looking for control on a social media platform because, like I said, they're miserable in their first life, in their first world, and they really just need to bully people in the virtual world. And to be fair, like I said, if there's a certain amount of communities that, like I said, for cultural appropriation, you don't cross lines out of respect. And there are a lot of people who just don't give a fuck about that, and I get it. It's a matter of personal belief, but, how you handle yourself in those situations, a lot of the time says more about you than it really does about them. Like, for instance, after Toby died, I was disrespected by a couple of individuals that knew better as adults, but they were doing it out of spite and to be assholes. And I could have been a real dickhead about the way I handled it. And I thought, in those situations, the best thing to do was just block, ignore, and keep my mouth shut. Because getting other people involved in some pointless drama war over he said, she said bullshit really wasn't going to do any of us any good. And it takes the attention away from the fact that, Toby passed away from COVID, and me losing him at that time, fighting with somebody else wasn't going to bring him back. So that kind of toxic drama really has no place in social media. And if I have a problem with that person and they want to continue along their path in their whatever social media community is, then who am I to cause problems for that? Good luck to them. I hope they find their path. I hope they find their way. And I just need to forget about it and move on. Lesson learned, right? And that just needs to be the way that it is. Because, honestly, and I've been preaching this to the choir, the best revenge for anything that upsets you is success. And I still have to process all my emotions on lessons learned for things that happen in relationships, whether it happens on social media or in my first world. So the less collateral damage that we cause in our own personal stuff, for the people around us, then the better off we are, right? I don't know why it would be necessary for me to make other people uncomfortable because of my own personal beef. And, a lot of these other people just don't care. They just want to be in the center of attention. And, and the adage being that, all attention is good attention, whether it's negative or positive. And I just disagree. For me, it's more of, I don't really care about the attention. I just want to maintain and manage my life the best that I can and try to be a better version of myself. Now, at the end of the day, if I were one of these people who were trying to grow a channel or be a content creator with goals in mind to build or grow something, then yeah, I would have at least an agenda. But there's a fine line to walk about how to achieve those goals, maintain boundaries and expectations, and still be a good human, and establish a good reputation as a decent business person, and have good reputation and character. Some people don't care about those things. But if you don't care about those things, then people are going to think you're an asshole. And you're going to think you're a douchebag. And they're not going to want to associate themselves with you. And some people don't care or don't consider that when they are burning bridges on their way up. And, that's an unfortunate con to being a gatekeeper or an elitist, and they don't consider the consequences to those actions because they've never been held accountable, and they still choose to not be accountable for the things that they do. And that's why I said, how do we protect ourselves from those things and still maintain friendships with people on those platforms? And again, it's I'm back to the old original boundaries, and I'm going to continue to preach that. I don't find gatekeeping to be that kind of elitism to be really productive or positive for the most part on any of the platforms. I haven't really seen a whole lot of instances where it's practical or even positive or necessary, because to be honest, I see most of the social media as kind of art form. Especially lately. I mean, TikTok, the content creating, and same with YouTube. I mean, these kind of channels, and even Facebook, I guess, for the most part, it's social media. But those outlets and those avenues are supposed to be places for people to be creative and for people to have an outlet. And so I look at it as more of a form of art. And honestly, gatekeeping and elitism has really no place in art. I think once you find a niche or you have a way of communicating with people in whatever, in air quotes, art form, whether it's music or it's videos or it's, cooking or, some of these content creators do some amazing cosplay or, telling stories or, reporting or whatever your niche is. I look at it as art. No different than going to the art gallery and being able to paint, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So, you wouldn't have, looked at the Mona Lisa and said, dude, you put her mouth on crooked. You need to fix that. I mean, it's a priceless piece of work of art, based on the story and the character of the person who created it. So, I mean, we would no more gatekeep that kind of art than we would, anything else. So, there's a lesson to be learned in that. Why would you gatekeep anybody's YouTube channel or, their content that they're creating on any social media platform, unless it's there to harm somebody, like I said. And then again, what's wrong with telling somebody, man to man, you might want to rethink this, or can we have a discussion as to why you might want to rethink this? Like I said, of course, there's going to be people who are douchebags. You've always got your elitist douchebag who runs around calling everybody a poser, and their shit don't stink. But everybody seems so invested in calling them out and being the whistleblower, and again, trying to get clout and get recognition for being that whistleblower on the gatekeeper, that it becomes a big toxic cycle. Instead of just letting them bury themselves, If you're going to be an elitist snob, people will eventually be like, okay, you're a dick. But, the elitists all kind of gather together and they sit at the cool kids table and look down their nose at other people. And eventually they either loosen the fuck up and open their mind a little bit, or they fade away and go, piss their pants and eat their fucking worms by themselves. And they eventually fade away, but everybody, wants to get in these big wars, these gatekeeping wars, and these toxic beef things that go on, and pretty soon it gets really confusing, and then nobody wants to be around on social media anymore. And then it's sad because really talented people get run off because they get sucked into having to choose sides. I'm not going to choose sides. I'm going to choose me. At the end of the day, I'm just going to choose me and establish my boundaries and be like, dude, if Trash Mama 8,605,97 has a problem with, Panda Guts 27, and I'm making up names, I'm just pulling on my ass, in another country, and they're fighting over some dude because he's catfishing both of them on the interwebs, and it's all over this, that, or the other thing. That's your guys' fucking problem. I don't care. But if you've got cool makeup and I want to see your tutorial while you tell a true crime story, and I like your delivery, I'm going to watch it. And if your chief rival doesn't like me for that, then that's on her bad. I mean, I'm a free-thinking individual. I don't give a fuck. So I'm tired of people going, well, so-and-so is this, that, or the other thing. Of course, within reason. I mean, I'm not going to associate myself with garbage humans and people who are, doing things against crimes against, children or animals, or doing things that are, again, that morally don't go against my code or whatever. But I don't feel the need to sit around and talk shit about those people and give them any attention that they don't deserve. And, again, that kind of gatekeeping, it gets old, and that's fine if that's part of your shtick and that's your community and that's how you build a platform because you're calling out bad behavior. That's your gig. But to me, that just seems like witch hunting, and I think people have the right and the ability to try to better themselves and learn, within reason. I mean, if you do something to break the law, then you go to jail. You should be held accountable from a legal standpoint, but some of the shit that people get called out for and get gatekeeped on social media for is real petty and kind of crappy. This person's a homewrecker and they just go running around looking for, relationships to break up. Okay, well, that might be one person's perception of it. But you know what? Seriously, the block and ignore button does work. And if you're not beating children or hurting animals and really it's just petty because you don't like the color of somebody's eyeshadow, or you're jealous because somebody else is prettier and has more friends, that kind of bullshit is really good. It's just got to stop because it's high school and there's really no place for that kind of gatekeeping and bullshit. It just makes everybody miserable. And it's a Dr. Phil episode, Cash me outside, how about that? That's just dumb. Jerry Springer bullshit is dumb. Because at the end of the day, I really don't care who's sticking their dick in anybody and playing the reindeer games on the social medias. And I don't care what community you're in. It takes away from the people who are really just there to really learn and try to make a positive environment, I guess. So, and I could ramble on and on and on about that, and nobody wants to hear that, so I'm not gonna. So, yeah, the gatekeeping thing just got real toxic real fast on a lot of the social media platforms. Like I said, I'm just grateful that I can recognize it for what it is. And as soon as I see people, talking shit and I wasn't going to make this video, but I felt it necessary to call out so and then I'm like, nah, I'm out, or I'll try to hear it out real quick and then try to find out who the main players are. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm just not getting involved. I mean, if it's funny, it's funny. And I'm an equal opportunity asshole. I'll laugh at stupidity. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to go run off to somebody else's, website or platform and start goading them. And I mean, I do throw juice boxes if something's funny. But at the same time, it's just dumb. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh at stupidity. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to do what I do. And I'm still going to talk shit here. And I'm still going to speak my truth as I see it. Because if you're treating other people like your shit don't stink and somebody calls you out on it and you're still a douchebag over it, then that's you bad, If you go, yeah, you're right, I'm being a dick. If you own your shit, you have an opportunity to learn from that. And that's why I've always said I'm an open book. If you think I'm gatekeeping anybody and saying, oh, no, you can't do that, call me out on my shit. I've always been transparent. And I encourage other people to do the same. And if I react in a way that, is defensive and I get butthurt about it, then yeah, call me out on that too. I'm human. I'm going to probably get my feelings hurt in the future because somebody is honest with me. But at the end of the day, it's a lesson I got to learn, just like everybody else. Because I'm not going to learn that my behavior is toxic or that it's hurting somebody's feelings until somebody brings it up to me. And then I have two choices. I can either accept that I'm hurt somebody's feelings and either determine if it's something that I have to deal with a specific individual, or if it's a toxic trait that maybe I need to take a look at for myself. And maybe I need to make some changes in my world so that I can do better. But that's what boundaries are. That's what expectations are. That's what open, transparent communication is about. So that I don't gatekeep other people, so that I don't run around treating people like garbage. In all the communities that I touch, all of the communities that I come across, no matter what I'm interested in, no matter what I'm learning about. Because I'm not a master of anything. I don't think I have a PhD in any subject other than just navigating life to say that I have the authority to tell anybody how they should or shouldn't do anything. I can only give suggestions to people about my experiences and say, you know what, this worked for me in the past. Maybe you can try this and see if you have a positive result. And if you don't, well, you might be able to learn something in the process and try, or maybe another solution will present itself. But at the end of the day, you tried, right? And to me, that's all that matters, is being accountable and just gatekeeping, I guess, yourself. I think that's the only positive thing I can say, is to be a gatekeeper of yourself. But I get real tired of watching people dictate how you're supposed to do it their way or the highway. And I think people just need to kind of step back from that and be unafraid and unashamed to just do their own thing and say, unless you're writing my paychecks or you're paying my bills, you don't really get a say in that. But that's really my theory. That's my thoughts on gatekeeping and elitism, kind of, so to speak. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed my little rant today. Trying to keep it short and sweet, as always. But until next time, guys, wash your fucking hands and be a good human. Love y'all. Bye-bye.